Hey there, it's Greg Smith here, and in this video I want to talk to you about gaining control over your golf swing so you can be more consistent but hit the ball a lot longer and a lot more accurately as well. So a couple of days ago I sent out an email asking what are your top 2 questions about this topic, what would you most like to know about improving your golf swing, what questions would you most like answered, and the response that I got was completely overwhelming. Lots of great questions that came through, so I decided to shoot this video for you today to answer some of those questions and to really help you start achieving these awesome results. So let's get started. Okay, so one of the more commonly asked questions then was about the swing plane. So what's the ideal swing plane that we're trying to achieve, how to achieve it, some of the key positions. So when we're looking at the swing plane, what we really want to be doing is trying to achieve that steep to shallow shape. That's what the majority of the top tour pros will do. And the reason that they do that is because it works. It gets the club on a good line going back. We're able to create a nice hinging motion with the wrist and keep the club square to the swing, but then we can deliver the club on the ideal line. So it gives us maximum accuracy, but we can release the club fully so we get the full power out of the swing as well. And whenever we're looking at some of the top players and how they swing the club, we'll see the initial backswing motion. It'll be a relatively vertical plane of the club shaft going back, and then we see a flattening of that club shaft in the downswing. And when we create that motion, that's when we can get that steep to shallow. There are exceptions to the rule. There's always exceptions to the rule, but the majority of players will do this because it's easier to repeat when you know how to do it. So by being able to get this steep to shallow shape of golf swing, you're going to have much more control over the club long term, and you can deliver the club at speed into the golf ball. So I suppose the next thing is, how do we actually create this steep to shallow? Well, it all starts off with having a good posture. So let's look at how to achieve the ideal posture. Okay, so I had lots of good questions about some of the basic fundamentals, some of the setup, about grip, alignment, ball position, things like that. But the one that I picked out is posture, because posture is really important in terms of setting the plane angles on which we're going to swing the golf club. All of the fundamentals are important towards hitting the golf ball consistently and powerfully. But posture, I think it's very important to get right from the start, because that's going to make it easier to create the shape of swing that we're after. So what are we looking for with the ideal posture? Well, there are lots of drills that we can go through to get the posture, but I think it's much more important to look at the shape that you're trying to achieve. And when we set into the ball, the first thing we want to make sure as we set up is that the weight's going through the balls of the feet. So we don't want to be biased towards the toes, and we certainly don't want to be biased towards the heels. We want to have the weight going through the balls of the feet and then a nice springiness with the knees. And I always like visual when you're trying to change your golf swing. So I want you to visualize a chevron shape that we're trying to get with the posture. So what I mean by that is that the upper body is tilted forwards. We feel like we're pushing the hips back slightly, and it's almost like that chevron shape that we're getting with just a fraction of flexion of the knees, just to keep things nice and relaxed. We're going to be proud with the upper body. So everybody's going to have slightly different posture positions. Some people have rounded shoulders, some people will be straighter. We just want to be proud with the upper body. If we can be proud with the upper body, then it's going to be closer towards your ideal posture. And then from there, just making sure the chin's away from the chest. And again, it's weight through the balls of the feet, a slight flexion in the knees, not bending, just flexion, and creating that chevron shape. And when you can create that sort of position, we actually fractionally tilt the pelvis forwards now, so we can create the ideal rotation, but on a slightly tilted axis. It's going to give us the ideal body turn as we swing the club. And then we can align the arms to that body turn to make sure that we're getting that ideal swing plane. Okay, so we know the swing plane that we're trying to achieve now. we're also in the ideal posture position to allow us to achieve that. Doesn't mean that we're going to hit this ideal swing plane. So we need to know how to get the ideal line with the backswing, and this was a question that came over and over again. So as we get into our ideal posture, we know that we want to create this steep to shallow shape with the golf swing. So there's some positions that we're looking for in the backswing. So as we take the club away, we're looking for this more vertical position here. So the club shaft is aligned with the right shoulder, and we're pointing midway between the ball and the feet. And that gives us the initial steepness to the backswing line. Now, this is really, really important if you want to have consistency and control over your club face angle. Because what's happening here now is a vertical motion of the arms. So the body's rotating, but the arms are working more vertical to create this steeper position. And what that does is it keeps your club face more square to your line of swing through that part of the backswing, so we can release fully at speed. You're going to have much more control over your club face through the ball when you create this hinging motion, and you can release at speed, which is going to give you a lot more power when you're hitting the shot. So really important to get this initial part of the backswing right, to have that steepness of that shaft plane. Okay, so I think the most commonly asked question was about club path or swing direction or swing plane on the downswing. And this is the most difficult part to get right, but it's critical because this is how the club is delivered into the golf ball. So you need to know how to get that ideal line of swing coming into the ball to get the accuracy that you want, but also, again, to be able to release the club at speed, to be able to turn the body at speed. It only happens through getting this ideal downswing position that we're going to look at now. So once we get into our ideal posture, our chevron-shaped posture, and we've created this more vertical backswing line here, what we're then going to try and make sure we do is we flatten the club shaft into the downswing. And one of the key areas that we're looking for is this club shaft to be underneath the right shoulder. If it's on the right shoulder, then that club shaft is getting too steep, and we're going to see the club swing across the ball. You're certainly not going to be able to release the club through the ball because you're going to see a lot of the left side of the golf course if you do that. And that's where the weak fade shot comes from, or the slide shot. It comes from a too steep a downswing line, which causes the club to come across the ball, or the over-the-top motion, if you like. But if you can get this flattening motion of the club shaft into the downswing, so this club shaft flattens and we see it underneath the right shoulder, the club comes from the inside of the golf ball now, so we can achieve a nice soft little draw if we want. We can then clear the body much more quickly through the ball, so we can generate a lot more speed. We can also release the hands through the ball, so again we can generate much more speed. That downswing line is absolutely critical towards getting a consistent strike, a consistent club delivery, and generating power into the swing. So flattening off that club shaft line, that's definitely something we want to do. Okay, so this last question I'm going to go through, and again quite a popular one, is the transition. So how to get the correct transition, the sequence to the swing, how to generate lag, how to get power, how to have rhythm to the swing. It all comes from that transition. And we spoke in the last point about getting the club shaft flattening in the downswing. Well, how does that work in with the transition, and how does it work with the body? Well, as we're creating this flattening of the club shaft in the downswing, this is actually happening at the same time the body's rotating. Now, generally, when we talk about sequence, we talk about the lower body goes first, then the upper body goes, then it's hands, arms, club. And visually, that is exactly the way that the segments of the body move. But that doesn't work if you try and do it that way, because as the body rotates, the arms follow. So the arms have to move in relation to the body. So the ideal way of getting the correct transition is from the top of the backswing. We're feeling that the arms create the shallowing, so the arms are shallowing the club shaft, and I'm exaggerating it here slightly just so you can see, but that's the motion that we're feeling as the body is turning left. So just trying to get the sequence through lower body working first, then body, then arms, then hands and clubs won't work. but trying to get the feeling that the arms are pulling into the body and shallowing the club shaft as the body rotates, that will get the correct transition and the correct sequence. And of course, the benefits of that are, again, we get the ideal downswing line, so we get that nice inside motion, but then that allows us to fire the body left quickly, to release the hands quickly through the ball, and generate a lot of speed coming into impact. So you're going to get so many great benefits when you get this transition correct. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video and those 5 key points that we went through. I hope I've answered all your questions there. Some really game-changing stuff in there, and you implement it into your technique, and you're going to get some great results. Now, the reason that I've done this video and the reason I've been asking you so many questions recently is because I'm launching a new training program on how to gain control over your golf swing. So when you can control your golf swing, you can become more consistent. You can generate phenomenal speed, and you can be very, very accurate with your technique as well. You have to gain control over your golf swing if you want to become a better player, and that's what this training is all about, how to transform your golf swing, how to be able to control it and get these awesome results. We're going to go through some advanced concepts on this, but it's not just for advanced players, because we're going to cover absolutely everything you need to know in terms of gaining control over your swing and getting this consistent, repeatable and powerful motion. It's going to be a series of webinars, a series of webinar calls. So I will deliver the modules in each of these calls, and you have the ability to ask me questions as we go through it as well. So obviously there's going to be a limited number of people that can actually be on these calls, but it's really going to be a fantastic training. In the first training, we're going to look at the swing plane that we spoke about today and how to implement it and how to actually make a swing change, because that's absolutely critical. You need to know how to change and not just think that you're changing. You need to know that you're doing the right things, and that's what we're going to cover in Module 1. In the second training, we're going to look at the fundamentals, so the posture that we spoke about today, the grip, the alignment, the ball position, and not in just the general way, how it's specific to the swing that we're trying to create. Everything we do in this training is for a reason, and it's all going to fit together, and that's why we have to cover these modules to make sure that your grip, your alignment, your posture is matching up with the type of swing that we're trying to build. In the third training, we're going to look at the backswing plane, so the key positions in the backswing, the drills to achieve them, and again, how to implement them. The fourth call, we're then going to look at the downswing plane, how we shallow the club shaft, how we make sure we're getting the club on the inside to attack the ball correctly. And then in the final call, we're going to look at the transition, more advanced concepts, how to generate power in the swing, how to release the club, and how to get you hitting the ball much, much longer but more consistently. It's going to be a fantastic training. It's really going to help you take your game to the next level. It doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or a really advanced golfer, you're really going to get a lot of benefit out of this program. Now, as I said earlier, there's going to be limited availability for this program because it's going to be live calls. I'm going to be doing the calls. I want it to be interactive as well, so we can only have so many people on the call. If you want to make sure that you guarantee your place, there's actually a little box below this video, and all you need to do is enter your name and email address, and when we're live, I will let you know in advance to make sure that you can secure your place. So it's going to be coming very, very soon, very shortly. We're just putting the finishing touches together for it. So again, if you want to make sure that you reserve your spot on these calls, on this training program, enter your name and email address below. We'll be in touch and we'll get you on the course, and this is going to be epic.